Okay, in this sixth session of week 10, we will talk about Sakhalin Korean culinary culture, which is very different from Goryeo saram culinary culture, but also very interesting because Sakhalin Korean culinary culture has a different layers of culture. First of all, as we learned, Koreans in Sakhalin are very different from Goryeo saram. As a matter of fact, because Sakhalin Koreans became Soviet resident after the Second World War, their status was different because these Koreans were in enemy territory, living in southern Sakhalin, which used to be Japanese territory, but they are ethnic Koreans. So Soviet Union, the Communist Party, sent Goryeo saram from Central Asia to deal with Sakhalin Koreans because Sakhalin Koreans didn't speak Russian. So Goryeo saram Communist Party members came to Sakhalin and teach them about communism, about Soviet Union, and so on. So in 1945, 1950, 1960, nearly 1970s, Sakhalin Koreans had to obey this Goryeo saram, they're co-ethnic from Central Asia, and they don't have a very good memory of them. And that's why they call Goryeo saram as a 큰땅배기 in Korean, which means the bastard from the continent or something. It is a derogatory term. But anyway, so Sakhalin Koreans, their culture was very different because, first of all, they were mostly from southern provinces of Korea, while Goryeo saram originated from northern province. So their dialect different, their culinary culture different, and so on. And Sakhalin Koreans were living on Sakhalin with majority population of Japanese. So Sakhalin Koreans had very heavily influenced by Japanese culture. Even their names in 1945, they all had Japanese names, like Mr. Tokuta, and also when Russians were surprised, they could not tell if they were Koreans or Japanese because they all had only Japanese name. But they also had a Korean name, and they know what their Korean name is. So, like there's a famous film out of it, 명자 Akiko Sonia. Many years ago, someone made that film, and that girl, the Sakhalin Korean woman, her Korean name is 명자, and her Japanese name is, of course, Akiko, and later her Russian name is Sonia. So Sakhalin Koreans, in their culture, there is a layer of Japanese culture. Of course, at the bottom is Korean culture, Japanese culture, and pure Russian culture. And that is very well reflected in their food as well. But Sakhalin Koreans also had a big impact, especially the Russian population in Sakhalin. Like their Goryeo saram co-ethnics, who taught Russian people who came all the way to Russian Far East how to consume seaweed. The same thing, Sakhalin Koreans eating seaweed, Russians also learned how to eat seaweed, and today in Sakhalin, Russians, on the coast area, you find many Russians collecting seaweed because they know that they can eat this. They can make a nice salad out of it. And now, Sakhalin Korean food is different from Goryeo saram food, or different from South Korean food as well. Now, this is a paparnik, which is a fern, gosari namul, which is abundant on the island of Sakhalin. So paparnik is a very popular food, not only among Sakhalin Koreans, but Russians as well. And this is another kind of food that is very well known on Sakhalin. The left is a burdock, and they make a salad out of it. And I believe in South Korea, they have similar kind of food. And then on the right, they call it hye in Korean, and that's fermented fish with carrot and also vinegar. So I didn't see that food in Central Asia, but on Sakhalin, they have that food. So I will summarize what we have covered today in this week 10. Korean diaspora in the former Soviet Union, and they call Goryeo saram, and there are also Sakhalin Koreans. They developed very interesting culinary practices through their multi-layered migration experience or the changes in their rulers. In this case, Sakhalin people didn't migrate. They were there, and they were ruled by Japanese at the beginning, and then they were ruled by Soviets. And so their food and food culture have been heavily influenced by other ethnic groups, such as Japanese, in the case of Sakhalin, and Chinese, in the case of Goryeo saram, and Russians, of course, and Central Asians, and then eventually by South Koreans as well, as many of them migrated to South Korea, and very quickly they learned things like a kimbap and so on and so on, and tteokbokki. And so in Central Asia today, you find tteokbokki, and now that is, this Goryeo saram brought it from South Korea. And also, they also influenced on South Korean culinary culture. It diversified. In the past, where in South Korea can you find the Central Asian food or Russian food, for example? But now they are much more available as the number of Goryeo saram or Sakhalin Koreans increase in South Korea. And anyway, their case shows how migration and war can change people's culinary life, and often in a very unexpected and exciting manners. Now that was the theme of this lecture series, that when I made this course, the basic theme is how migration changes culinary culture, and also how war also creates migration, but war also in that process also bring culinary culture, as I said, often, very often, in a very unexpected and exciting manners. And thank you very much, my audience, that I will conclude the last week's lecture and the last session. And thank you very much for your kind attention, and I hope that it has been helpful. Thank you.